Show me.
Hello everyone and welcome to the first episode of this new series that I am starting here on the channel. Welcome to I Welcome You to Kung Fu, the series where I have a guest on every episode. I let them pick a movie from the Kung Fu and martial arts genre that has them interested, and I just pick a movie to pair up with it, something that I think makes some sense. For our first episode of I Welcome You to Kung Fu, I have a wonderful guest, a guest who has over 100,000 followers on his TikTok page, Real Takes. He is 1/3 of the wonderful movie podcast Goodwill Podcasting on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you can really find your podcasts. If our film talk community were a football team, he would probably be the quarterback, and if we were the outsiders, he would be Daryl. Me, myself, I think I'm a soda pop. I'm pretty good, I join in the fight, and at least I do not die in the end. Dan, I welcome you to Kung Fu.
Wu-Tang martial expert. There's not many who can match up with him.
Happy to be here. That was a very, very kind intro. Thank you for that.
I'm not at all winded.
That's a lot of words. Yeah, I think this is a really exciting series. I'm excited to see, who else you talk to as well and what movies you cover. And I feel like this could definitely kind of be a avenue for me to get familiarity with the genre that, frankly, I don't have any in. So I think it's really exciting. So thanks for having me.
I hope so. That answers my first question before we get into the movies here, which was, what is your history with Kung Fu cinema?
It's nothing.
Or even martial arts cinema as a whole, like, Van Damme, other stuff out there, John Wick.
Yeah, I mean, the Van Damme, I would say, like, that entire kind of era of that sort of, like, action hero, I feel like is a huge kind of blind spot for me. I think the 80s in general, I think are kind of a blind spot across the board. But, really basic stuff. Like John Wick, obviously, I love. Love Kung Fu Panda. I don't think that counts.
The Kung Fu Panda. Look, I made a list video back in 2020 of the best martial arts films of the 2010s, and in that I did do an honorable mention, and on the honorable mentions was Kung Fu Panda 3 because Kung Fu Panda 3 rules.
Yeah, I love the first three. I think 4 was like fine. I don't know that I'll go back to it, but just being in the franchise, I still enjoyed it. I don't think it was as good as the other 3, but I really enjoy that trilogy. I think they're so much fun and just great movies for kids, adults, great messaging. And I also feel, as like an outsider, I feel like they try to at least capture some type of essence about Kung Fu and, what it is. So I really enjoy them.
Based on that experience you have, even if it is so little, what sort of preconceived notions do you have about the genre?
I think I try to not have any. I feel like any genre, there's going to be probably a wide range of subgenres, and I think probably depending on era. Even the 2 movies we're talking about today, like, I'm sure you're going to probably fill me in on the connection and the similarities, but I think, like, in terms of their subject matter, in terms of their tone, their visual aesthetic, music, they're very different, which I think is great. I think, my hope would be maybe kind of each movie sort of has a life of its own, and obviously it's based on the director and, their kind of style or, the characters, the setting, all this stuff. So I feel like the genre gives you a lot to play with, but I'm curious to see kind of maybe how many buckets there are that movies really tend to fall into, and maybe you could speak to that a little bit, or if you feel there's a easy way to describe that.
Right. What imagery comes to mind whenever you hear me say kung fu cinema?
Hmm. I feel like sort of the imagery that defines the climax of both of these, kind of this like almost like a
Grandiose final
Western
fight.
showdown. Yeah, like
Right,
a
right,
sort of duel, a lot of like close camera work. It's a very personal, like intimate kind of fight. I think that's kind of the what I picture when I think about it in general.
yeah,
But also obviously the more like grandiose set pieces. And each of these have a few where you're kind of getting into like an Ip Man fighting 10 people at once, like something like that, where it's really you're allowing someone to just kind of show everything they have at once. I think
right.
that's fun.
Uh, I mean, I like that you bring up westerns, seeing as westerns, some of the best westerns I guess in film history were pretty much just remakes of samurai, or for lack of to compare it, martial arts films.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the genres are sort of forever linked, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the other beautiful thing, I love westerns. It's probably my favorite genre. I think westerns are really there's such a strong international influence in general. Like that, there's a lot of people from all over the world have made great westerns. I think obviously with just the spaghetti western. I mean, the stuff that was coming out of Italy was insane, and like, I think it's a genre that like you think of as very American, but in reality, like it's what's cool is, and not, one could say this is sort of an ideal characteristic of America. Like it's able to pull from all over the world, and like it's
Yeah,
very collaborative, and it is American, but at the same time, it's really not. Like these are
right.
stories from the world. So
Well, before we dive into these movies, tell us a little bit about Real Takes and Goodwill Podcasting, and what people could expect if they find you in those places.
sure, yeah, on TikTok, you can expect talking about movies. I also talk about I try to talk about the world. I think the angle I try to take is, I very much care about like politics and what's going on in the world, and I also love movies. I try to bring those things together wherever I can, or try to like have conversations that include both things. I think most things that are made that we watch and consume
Mm-hmm.
are have something to say. They might not be like overt, like necessarily directly quote unquote political, but like everything is written by a person who was influenced by their environment, and your environment is everything that's going on in the world. So I think, I like trying to find those intersections and sometimes talking about just one or just the other, but that's kind of what I do. And then Goodwill Podcasting, we just kind of do it for fun.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, we don't really have any aspirations of trying to like make that some huge thing, but it's fun to like, we've had you on multiple times, which was a lot of fun. It's fun to have people from all over the community, join us, talk about stuff they love. We just talked about Superman with someone who um, really
Didn't
loved
like it.
Superman, but didn't love the movie as much as us. I think that's another thing we try to do is like find differing opinions and like have conversations where we don't. It's not always just like, oh, we all hate this or we all love this. It's like
Mm-hmm.
there's push and pull. I think that's important. Talking about movies because you don't want to get in an echo chamber, which I think
Yeah, yeah.
happens a lot. So yeah, we just kind of talk about new releases and some old stuff as well.
I like the podcast. I was happy to be on it. I was excited to be on it. I've been listening to it for a good few months now. I wanted to get the plugs out of the way while, it's the beginning of the video. People are still watching and have not clicked off yet, so may as well just get them in now.
Thank you. Thank you.
No problem. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into our first movie. The 2008 Wilson Yip directed Ip Man.
Abbott, I want you to shave my head. If you refuse to help, I swear I'll burn this temple down.
The plot of this movie, 2008's Ip Man follows Master Ip, a master of the style of Wing Chun, and his family and community in Foshan, China, a city that prides itself on its rich culture of kung fu, where Ip Man stands in high regard despite not actually owning a school. Life is bright and happy until the Japanese invade, taking over the city and seizing Ip Man's estate. He must use his mastery of Wing Chun to fight back against the oppression of the Japanese and inspire his people. Directed by Wilson Yip, written by Edmund Wong and Tai Lee Chan, starring the wonderful, the great, legendary Donnie Yen, Simon Yam, who is honestly a legend in himself, Fan Su Wong, Lin Xiong, Hiroyuki Ekauchi, Zheng Yu, and Ka-Tung Lam, and action director Sammo Hung. Dan, why did you choose Ip Man?
I think for a couple reasons. One of them is I know this is like an important piece of the genre, something that people that is kind of beloved. You know, we talked. I do love John Wick. I've obviously seen Donnie Yen pop up in John Wick. Loved what he brought to that movie. And I was excited to watch this. I also, I love history. That's another thing I try to kind of work into how I approach things and how I think about things. And I think, I talk about it a good amount. I think what Japan did to Asia as a continent in the first half of the 20th century,
Right.
There are people that say they killed 15, 30 million people, and it's not talked about. I won't get into it, but like they were doing terrible things. They didn't really, civilians suffered, but the people that were doing a lot of those things, a lot of them didn't face any consequences. A lot of them got away with stuff. A lot of them made deals with the U.S. government to give them research and, all that stuff to get away with stuff. So it's really just an under talked about sequence of events. And the Second Sino-Japanese War, the stuff they were doing to the Chinese was awful.
Yeah.
So I think, having a movie that's able to kind of look into that, which is so under discussed in film, I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I don't think Japan likes looking into its history. I think you look at Germany and it's all, it's never again. They're very open and frank about, what happened, and they don't want it to happen again. But Japan is very just pulled back from it and trying not to talk about it. So anyway, I saw that the movie was kind of dealing with that, and I thought that would be really interesting. So kind of a combination of the history and also, Donnie Yen, and also just understanding this was a real person, and he was like obviously the foundational piece of Wing Chun, which would lead to Bruce Lee and so many other good things. So, it seemed like a good place to kind of start, I think.
The history of, I guess America is the same way. The history of, invading forces coming into China is really one of the most prevalent things, not even just in Kung Fu cinema, but in Chinese action almost really entirely. Like, it doesn't matter if it's the Japanese, if it's Mongolia, if it's the British, if it's America. One of the sometimes frustrating and overbearing elements of the genre is loud and obnoxious evil foreigners, and Ip Man is honestly one of the more laxed about it. Ip Man, it's almost a little bit respectful in how it presents its villains. There's I think Fearless is a really good movie that does that too in some way, at least with the Japanese, which is a Jet Li film. But yeah, the evil foreigner stuff, I've gotten to the point in some movies where it's just like laughable, and most of the time it's just because they're loud and obnoxious. Like I said, this movie is quite respectful in how it handles that stuff. If you watch the second Ip Man film, the villain in that is an American boxer, played by the late great Darren Shalabi, and he's so over the top, he's so loud, he's so brash, and he's such an asshole. And this movie has a few of those characters. There's like the secondary henchman under the general who's a asshole, but this movie's fairly respectful of how it presents that element.
Yeah, which is wild because I feel like if you want to, I feel like you can do that effectively without having to make people caricatures, like without having to make evil characters. But you're saying you think it gets to feel a bit like propaganda-y, or sort of, is that what you're?
It's not even the idea of propaganda. It's just like
they don't feel real.
They don't feel real. They just, are so loud and abrasive and evil, like out front. Like they're not hiding it in a lot of these movies. They're just fully out there evil monster people, to the point where, like you said, they don't feel real, and sometimes it gets annoying. It's one of the gripes I think many people have with the genre, but we get over it.
That's fair. I mean, in any genre, I think there's oftentimes villain problems, right? Like people struggle to write compelling villains, and I think it's the downfall of like a lot of different stories. But um, that is interesting. I saw also Mike Tyson is in Ip Man 3.
He's in the third one. He's not the main villain. He's just kind of a detour before we get to the main villain, who honestly is a fantastic character. And Mike Tyson, I know people make fun of. He did a movie with Steven Seagal that I don't even know the name of. People make fun of that, and they rightfully should. It's terrible. He's honestly good in Ip Man 3. I'm not even saying the acting wise, because I've seen a lot of Chinese people make fun of the way he says things. But in terms of actual fight choreography and performing alongside Donnie Yen, he's solid. Their fight is very, very good. But then the actual main villain of that movie is an actor named Max Zhang, who is one of my favorite current kung fu stars, and him and Donnie Yen have a stunning fight at the end of Ip Man 3. It's my second favorite of the series. I think they're all good movies, but the third one is my second favorite.
So you go 1, 3, 2, 4?
1, 3, 2, 4.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. 4 has Scott Adkins as the main villain.
Okay. From Life After Fighting?
No, from like John Wick Chapter 4 and
who's the Life After
films.
Fighting guy?
Bren Foster.
Okay. So wait, so Scott Adkins is who in John Wick 4? Refresh my memory.
He is the big.
Oh yeah.
Vaguely European.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
It's very funny.
Yeah, he's the villain in the fourth one. But you mentioned that Ip Man is sort of this important, highly regarded film within the genre. With that knowledge, what were your expectations going into it?
I feel like I had pretty high expectations. I think, knowing myself, I feel like I sort of felt like it was something I would enjoy. I feel like my expectations were met.
Good.
I thought it was really powerful. Yeah, I think the movie does a. I don't want to get into saying too much, but I think it does a really nice job of like splitting itself in half. Like the first, maybe not half, but like the first segment is very much. It's the lighting, right? Like it's a different world. Like it's very bright. It's light. It's you feel like, martial arts in and of themselves. It's like a beautiful thing that kind of connects the community. They all like learn from each other. It's very respectful. The combat is. Even when they're dueling, he's kind of like placing him on the ground. He's not like trying to hurt anybody. Like it's very much about respect. And also I think, about ego to an extent. You see that kind of coming in, and you see that I think with the different schools that are set up, because it's kind of like if, whose school is the best, this and that. And the beauty of, I guess, Ip Man is like, he didn't feel the need to have his own school or like, say how great he was. He just kind of let his fighting speak for itself.
And there's an honor amongst them of like when the first master comes to his house at the very beginning of the movie and challenges him and says like, hey, it's just between us.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about this out in public.
Yeah, and that's, you see, like, I think one of the reasons the character's so likable is there's just absolutely no ego.
Mm-hmm.
And I think ego is a big thing in this movie, and also obviously in The Prodigal Son. That's a movie very much, I would say, about ego, and, maybe not, ego isn't always a bad thing, I guess, especially in combat. I think you kind of need it, maybe, at times, but
it helps.
It makes the character very likable in this, I think.
What did in that, speaking of that first interaction with the master, that is our first glimpse at the speed and technique of Donnie Yen as Ip Man. How did you feel about that first introduction of Ip Man, Donnie Yen?
I was thinking about what it would be like to fight him and how horrible that would be.
No, it's a disaster.
Yeah, it's over quickly. That's good, but
the crazy thing is Donnie Yen doesn't have Wing Chun training. He comes from a Wushu background, but not Wing Chun, and so he actually trained with one of Ip Man's sons in preparation for this movie.
That's incredible. I can't even imagine what that was like. But yeah, it's so much control, right? Like
Mhm.
he's very fluid and like very much not breaking a sweat in this movie, which is always I think entertaining to watch,
Yeah, yeah.
especially when everyone else is going so hard and so you know really energetic and kind of vocal and loud, and like he's just very stoic. I
Mhm.
love like stoic characters, and it makes it fun, and you feel like he's not really unleashing everything he has, and you kind of see
Yeah.
what he has and how ugly that can be, and maybe it's like he's trying to hold himself back. He doesn't want to be what he can be, because it gets really brutal and violent.
Yeah, later on. Yeah, it's again that sort of lack of ego and humbleness. Um, what's your experience with Donnie Yen?
None.
Mostly
Just
just Rogue One and John Wick 4.
yes, yes. And I mean, I loved his characters in both. But do you have other big recommendations, like things to cross off the list for Donnie Yen?
I mean, there's always plenty of ones to check out. I'd have to think about what streaming. That's how I recommend everything. Is like I'll ask somebody what streaming services do you have, and just based on that, I'm like, okay, this streaming service has this movie, this movie, this movie, this movie.
Well, I don't mind renting stuff if
Right, right.
it's if it's if there's is this his biggest like most regarded well regarded role or
I think so. It's the one that people would name him for. It's like it's his Iron Man. It's his Captain America.
yeah,
It's the one where if someone sees Chris Evans off the street, they're gonna say Captain America. If someone sees Donnie Yen off the street, they're gonna say it's it, man.
yeah.
You know. And it's really the one that kind of blew him up. He was already a very successful star. He blew up in the late '80s. He was sort of found and discovered by Yuan Wu Ping. Yuan Wu Ping directed a few movies with him, some very good ones. You got like In the Line of Duty 4 and Tiger Cage. If you had to go back to the '90s and check out some of his '90s stuff, check out Iron Monkey. Iron Monkey's very very good. And then he had some really big hits in the 2000s. He has Flashpoint, he has SPL Killzone, Dragon Tiger Gate, but then 2008 he gets Ip Man, and then like it did, like he was already, like I said, a big star before, but then Ip Man just superstarred him. And that's I honestly I'd even say Ip Man gives him like international acclaim. Like when I if when someone learns, or if I tell somebody like, yeah, I love kung fu movies, I'm really big into martial arts cinema, one of the movies that they will probably ask me about, and it'll piss me off the way they say it, they'll go, oh man, you ever seen IP Man? And I'm like, dude, you watch the movie, like like they don't call him IP Man. What are you doing?
Intellectual property, man.
Right, intellectual property. Jesus Christ.
He's a
Uh,
lawyer.
you know what? He played a lawyer. That's a movie to check out if you want, like one of his most recent ones, and I think it's the
Prosecutor.
third film he ever directed. The Prosecutor, yeah,
Yeah.
his like third directed film. It's solid. It's not my favorite. I didn't love it. I have some friends that do love it. It was not my bag, but I liked it enough.
Can I ask? Is he is he someone who you would say has range, or is he sort of playing Donnie Yen, or like is he always kind of this like stoic sort of character? Like does he vary? Like what's it like?
He's definitely very stoic in a lot of things. I mean, that also may be how a lot of his characters are written. I think if you go back to some of his early stuff, Mismatched Couple, Tiger Cage, In Line of Duty 4, he is far more comedic. He's a lot more smiley in a lot of stuff like that, and he brings some of that stuff back a little bit in Killzone or SPL. Killzone's a very serious movie though. But then you have something like he did a remake of the Sammo Hung film Enter the Fat Dragon, which obviously is kind of like a parody of like a Bruce Lee kind of thing. And there's a thing in China where it's like Chinese New Year movies, where it's kind of like how we have like your summer blockbuster or your Christmas movie. It's like summer New Year movies, or Chinese New Year movies are like just big goofy fun movies. And he has that. He's the star of the remake of Enter the Fat Dragon, and that is very much like a dumb comedy kind of thing. Like it's Donnie Yen in a fat suit, pretty much.
Okay, that sounds funny.
Yeah, it's not bad. I liked it.
One question I had for you, do you and you might I don't know if this is even known, but what is the level of like accuracy around it? Like is this an accurate depiction of his life at the time and like what he was doing, or is this sort of mythology? or is it sort of unknown?
So I don't know how well off he was. I was questioning that while watching this movie, and I watched it for probably the 15th, 20th time, because I do know that in his younger years he was a cop, and I don't know the gap between that and him fleeing Foshan. And I believe the reason he fled Foshan wasn't because of the Japanese. He fled Foshan during the Civil War to Hong Kong. And then of course, I'm sure he never got on a big platform stage and fought a Japanese general, I mean, and that happens in all these movies. He didn't fight a boxer in the second movie. He didn't fight a dude who looked like Mike Tyson. When he came, I don't think he ever came to America, but in the fourth movie, he comes to America. He didn't get into a fight with a Japanese general who looked like Scott Adkins, or an American general.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's all these movies. Like I mentioned Jet Li's Fearless. Jet Li plays another real guy named Huo Wonjia, and in the movie he fights Hercules O'Brien, who was, I think in real life he was maybe an Irish boxer, maybe he was a British boxer, and like a bare knuckle boxer, like a big dude. And in the movie, of course, they fight, but in real life, he challenged him. He challenged Hercules O'Brien, and Hercules O'Brien was like, "We don't need to." I know. He backed out. Was he pulled the strongman thing. Was like, I don't need to fight you, and he backed out. They never actually fought. So a lot of things are fabricated. But I mean, the weird thing with, and I guess it's not that weird, with Chinese and Kung Fu cinema is they have so many examples of real people that they have turned into folk heroes. Ip Man is probably the latest example of that. Of course, the biggest one is Wong Fei Hung. Wong Fei Hung is like the biggest name in Kung Fu cinema as a character. He first was played by Quan Ta King, I think, in like the 1950s or 40s. And then he played that role for like probably in like 20 something movies. And then eventually it's Jet Li is Wong Fei Hung. Jackie Chan's been Wong Fei Hung.
It's sort of like Bond.
Kind of in a way, yeah. And then Donnie Yen wasn't Wong Fei Hung in Iron Monkey, but he was Wong Fei Hung's father. And like almost every major kung fu star has played Wong Fei Hung. There's been hundreds of Wong Fei Hung movies and TV shows. The character I mentioned, Huo Wonjia, was a real guy. He's kind of become a folk hero. And the most recent example they've used is now Ip Man, where, there's been now half a dozen or more Ip Man movies, and they get more and more unrealistic as they go.
Understood. Another question I had was, have you seen Wong Kar-wai made a movie about Ip Man? Have you seen that, The Grandmaster?
Yes. I think it came out in 2013, and I saw it in theaters for my birthday. It is a different movie. The Wilson Yip directed Ip Man films are very much kung fu movies. They are very much action movies. Whereas the Wong Kar-wai film, The Grandmaster, which stars Tony Leung instead of Donnie Yen, and Tony Leung does a very good job. It also stars Max Zhang and Ji Yizhang. It is far more, I always called it an art house picture, where because it's Wong Kar-wai, it's got a lot of beautiful imagery. It is a very gorgeous film. It is sort of a movie about the people who live within the martial world, the world of martial artists, and like that's all they do. That's their whole lives. And the action in it can be very good. I don't love some of the editing in that movie, but there are some very stunning fight scenes, and there's some really good ideas. Again, overall movie is probably great. I don't love the action in that one. But it's also not an action movie.
Understood. And also, so the choreography was done by the same man who did the choreography for The Prodigal Son.
He was at least the action director, so he made sure everything was framed the way it should be, because he's the expert on that kind of thing. Because really, when you have someone like a Donnie Yen or any of these kung fu masters, even like Fan Su Wong has been within the Hong Kong film industry, kung fu industry, since he was a kid. His father was a kung fu star. His father was Sammo Hung's teacher in The Magnificent Butcher. So he's been around it all his life. So when you have people like that, and when you have stunt communities who that is their specific training is kung fu cinema, it's not even necessarily that one man can be the fight choreographer. It's everybody is pitching in on the day and saying like, what if we did this? What if we did this? Okay, I'm gonna do this. You do this. Okay, what if we did this? What if we did this? And I don't know if you could cite one specific fight choreographer for this movie.
Got you. I was reading Hiroyuki Ikuchi.
Yeah, the Japanese guy. General.
Ikuchi, yeah. He this doesn't matter. I thought it was interesting. So his mother is from El Salvador,
Okay.
I believe. And his father is Japanese. I thought it was interesting having like someone that was clearly, I feel like he looked more like Indonesian or something. Like he didn't look Japanese, but he's kind of in charge of this imperial Japanese like occupation. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
But he is also someone that he's a judo black belt, but apparently he was kind of like struggling to keep up with what they were doing. He got hit in the head a bunch, got concussed.
Yeah. There's a really funny
a lot of work.
Yeah. There's a really funny story from Colin Chow, who is Seraph in the Matrix films.
Okay.
He is the bad guy in Flashpoint against Donnie Yen, and the final fight of Flashpoint is one of the best fight scenes ever made, truly. And him and Donnie Yen beat the shit out of each other. For real. Like, yes, a lot of it is going to be choreographed and they're going to they're going to miss by a little bit, but there's a handful of shots where they're like, "Hey, I'm going to hit you." And it even could be sometimes they do a fun gag where if you ever, there's a really fun shot, I guess, where if you see a slow-mo shot of a fist fully hitting somebody in the face, it's a rubber fist. It's just they're holding it under their sleeve and they're just hitting somebody with it. But even then, they beat each other up so much in that movie that Colin Chow had just come off of making the Matrix movies, and he was like, "This hurts so much. It didn't hurt like this in America. It didn't feel like I'm going back to Hollywood." He's like, "I got to go back. This hurts too much."
Damn. Yeah, I can't even imagine. But that makes me want to watch that movie now.
It's a good movie. It's a bit slow at points, but that final fight scene is worth getting to in the end. I had a couple moments in this that I sort of, I guess, never paid much attention to until watching it again here. I like how there's a moment, of course, the cop comes in at the beginning and interrupts all these kung fu guys talking and says, "This is the era of guns." But then later on, once the Japanese have taken over, Ip Man sees his kids playing with sticks and going bang, 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 bang. Like, oh yeah, this is the era of guns.
Yeah, and I feel like it's that's interesting. I mean, one of my favorite movies is The Last Samurai. And I think, what that movie is really is about, and what I think is so interesting is it's about like the westernization, like industrialization of Japan and trying to modernize their army. Like that shit is so interesting to me. And at the same time, then you have like Bushido and like people saying, "What are we doing? Why are we doing this? Like, what are we moving towards?" Like, but I thought it was kind of like a tiny moment that reminded me of that. I mean, obviously that's dealing with Japan, but just in terms of, moving from this very personal style of combat to just pulling out a gun, and that's it. I mean, so right. I thought that was a good moment.
I like this moment of acting from Donnie Yen. It's a very subtle moment from him. You kind of see it on his face. At the beginning of the movie, he's sharing meals with people who come to his house. He's a fairly wealthy man. And then once the Japanese take over and he's working in the mines with people, he's shoveling coal or whatever they're doing. And he's sitting down with Jing Yu. I don't remember that character's name. And Jing Yu sees him put his potato in his pocket to take home to his family. And Jing Yu breaks his potato and gives him a piece. And you just kind of see a look on Donnie Yen's face of embracing being humble and taking the meal.
Yeah.
And it's just the contrast of now he used to be the guy who shared his meal and now he has to accept this charity. And there's just a very subtle look of that on Donnie Yen's face that I really appreciated.
Yeah, and even him having to like humble himself to go shovel coal. I mean, it's hard work. It's very, it's essentially slave labor, right? To like support an invader basically, and that's just doesn't get much worse. But I feel like Wing Chun is kind of like this thing that they can't kill, right? Like it's kind of always going to be there, um, and you can always fall back on that. And I think there's a really good conversation with his wife where he's kind of questioning that, and he's saying like, I can do martial arts, like cool, so what? Like it still is what it is. But in the end, with that scene that they draw up, it's kind of like it ends up being a spark for them and like igniting kind of everyone else doing something. And I think that was a beautiful thing because it's really, you really feel like it's the lifeblood of the community in that first act, which is really nice.
What did you think of his wife as a character, being sort of the? I don't want to. She's not overbearing at all. She's very present. She's extremely present, and she recognizes, when her son is uncomfortable or any other uncomfortable situation. I enjoy the dynamic between her and Ip Man, and the great moment of like, hey, come sit here and spend time with your son. And he's sitting there, he's spending time with the kid, and then Jing Yu is like knocking at the gate, and Donnie Yen's looking over like, we can't do this right now.
Yeah, I think I enjoyed their dynamic. I think it makes the story more interesting. I like when she kind of gives him the okay to like fuck him up and is like, don't break our shit.
Yeah.
I really like that. The only moment I thought was a little goofy was at the end when he's about to duel the general. She's like driving, whatever. She's in the passenger seat, and she's like, I was so hard on him, telling him to like, talk to me and play with his kid, but I should have just let him do more martial arts and like have fun.
Yeah.
I was like, I feel like a man wrote that, but
yeah, definitely. She's a great character. I love her dynamic through the movies. The villain in the third movie, really, honestly, the third movie does not have a villain. The villain of the third movie is weirdly enough just cancer, because his wife gets cancer in the third movie. And so as much of him having to deal with Mike Tyson or Max Zhang's character, who's also a Wing Chun master, who's challenging Ip Man, saying like, hey, if you want to learn from the true Wing Chun master in this town, I'm going to defeat Ip Man in a fight and prove that I'm the real Wing Chun guy. And Ip Man has to put all those other things, he has to put his concern about Kung Fu, his concern about his school that he has in Hong Kong aside, and be like, my wife needs me. And that's like, honestly, that's the driving force of the third movie, and that's one reason why it's my second favorite. I think the third movie is a beautiful movie.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to watch at least 2 and 3, for sure. One thing I thought was a little bit funny at the end. It's like, as the credits are rolling, it's like, and then China defeated the Japanese Empire and they surrendered. Yeah. I was like,
again, and it's similar to Hero. The Jet Li film. I don't know if you've ever seen that one. It's a beautiful movie. It is one of the best wuxia kung fu films of the century. And then in the final 5 minutes, it is just a punch of propaganda. And there's a bit of that here, just a little bit, but it's there.
I was like, all right, yeah.
You brought up that the Ip Man versus 10 guys fight. That has been heralded over the past almost 20 years, 17 years. 17 years. As probably one of the greatest fight scenes of the century.
Mm-hmm.
How did you feel about it?
I loved it. I mean, I love I kind of said like the shift obviously in like the lighting with how dark and gray and dull it is, and just you feel what they're going through, right? Mm-hmm. But that scene, the lighting is beautiful. You have kind of everyone on the outside. You have just the light where you need it. Really striking, which I think makes it way more memorable. But it's just, it's him just kind of unlocked, right? Like he's obviously upset.
The holding back is gone. There's no more holding back. I am angry, and it's coming out now.
Yeah, and those, like, you see, I guess, the style at its most offensive. I think it's primarily supposed to be more defensive, right? Like,
it's a combination of both, but yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, the rapid fire punches like to the guy's head. I'm like, oh, that guy's dead. Like that guy has brain
Yeah.
damage. Like he's gone. Like it's really vicious. And like again, he still doesn't quite seem like he's trying, but definitely trying a little bit more. He's like leaning forward in his seat.
He's
And
definitely trying to hurt, and he's doing it.
yeah, but still with very little with ease. Like you can
Yeah.
tell he's having fun with these guys. It is vicious. It's really
Yeah. But it ends up being one of the most, uh, I guess, best story elements of the movie of him. It was that moment on the larger scale of things of what's going on in his life and his town meant nothing, and he feels that we see his knuckles all bladed up, and he now just has to be like, I lost my temper and that's fine. I did that purely for me. It served nobody. It fixed nothing.
yeah. Yeah, which I mean perfectly fits his character, right? Like as we described his character, it's not like his character is changing. That's like, you know, his character showing a crack and showing, it's from something I'm sure he probably wouldn't be proud of or feel good about. But it's also that's just reality. And when you treat people like that and push people like that, you get violence. So
Yeah. I just enjoy it's so heavily regarded as such a great fight scene, but truly one of the best elements of it is the story aspect of it. Of yes, it's a great fight. He took out all these guys, and he just learned sort of. I think I'm pretty sure he even says it. He's like, and it's I guess it's sort of the realization that helps him go teach people later on is myself doing what I just did served nobody but myself. And then he ends up teaching the people working in the cotton mill of like, hey, if I can at least give them this self-confidence, this ability to protect themselves, then at least somebody will be doing better than they were yesterday.
yeah, and I think I mean, there's a lot of times in the movie where he's kind of prompted to like teach and like share what he knows, and he's kind of reluctant. And not, like I talked about in the beginning, like he's someone who doesn't have a school. He's not like trying to do that. So I think that moment of him being like, you know, I need to help in some way, and like giving people, like you said, confidence and hope, something to rally around. Um, I think that was a nice little scene. Like it was a little tropey and all, but like it was a nice little scene. And then you get the action sequence. Um, in the
Fighting off the
factory
bandits.
where he still just ends up kicking the shit out of all of them by himself. But yeah, the bit with the long pole was really cool. The 2-on-1 fight, just lots of memorable moments of action here.
How did you feel about the final fight and I guess all the drama around that and his wife coming back and him being shot and all that?
I thought it was great. I thought it was really effective. I thought, getting at like kind of combining all the stuff we've been talking about, that was kind of the moment of like, it's resistance, right? Like it's how do you resist against this force that you can't really do anything against, but it's about a symbolic moment.
Yeah, his purpose in that moment being to give people hope in representing them, and then when he not only wins in beautiful fashion. One of my favorite moments of this movie is cutting back between him practicing on the dummy and him executing all those exact same movements on the general. I love it. But he's given people hope in winning the fight. And then him immediately being shot, infuriating everybody, and then just that moment of rebellion from everybody is pretty powerful.
Yeah, it's very sort of reminded me a little bit of like Andor or something that would be in that. Like it's very just, it felt very real. Like that's very authoritarian, just being like, oh, you think you did something? Now I'm just going to shoot you because I can. Like, and then thinking you can do whatever you want to people and not having there be a reaction. But powerful, definitely a powerful moment. I think one of the moments I remembered from the fight itself was when he gets pushed back and he's like hanging off of the like platform that they're on, and then like pulling himself back up. That was, I mean, this movie is beautiful. Like the way it's shot is incredible. Like very early on, like seeing how fluid the combat was shot, I was like really blown away and just hooked because
It's also the first time we see him challenged.
yeah. Yeah, I mean,
And
he's just
it's the first time he takes a hit.
everybody else up. Like, yeah. Which you always, you want to see that. I mean, that's like it's a challenge, right? Like it's the challenge of Superman. Like, how do you make a Superman story when you can just fucking plow through everyone? Like, how is it? I mean, that's like One Punch Man was built on this idea. Like, how do you? It's boring, right? Like, he gets bored. That's kind of the point. So I think, you like to see your characters get challenged even when they're written to be able to do whatever they want without really trying. So it's a great fight and satisfying.
Bringing up Superman, I can't help but give you a secondary thing to watch. There's a brilliant YouTube channel, you'd really love him, honestly, called Accented Cinema. And he has a video analyzing the first 3 Ip Man films and comparing them to famous Superman arcs.
Oh.
And it's a very, very good video. It's really good. What are some of your final, I guess, not just takeaways, but I guess just thoughts on 2008's Ip Man?
Final thoughts. I think I loved the performances. I thought Donnie Yen is really compelling. I loved how kind he was at the start of this, and then seeing like those cracks, something like we talked about, was really effective. Everyone else, I really enjoyed. I think every single side character in this felt like fleshed out to a degree. I thought seeing the back and forth with the translator, I'm not gonna remember his name.
I had it here. It was Ka Tong Lam, the actor at least.
Got you. Yeah, I enjoyed seeing that. I think seeing anything where that's a story about people who are kind of caught in the middle and maybe they're trying to make it through and they're kind of conflicted. I think those stories are interesting, and seeing him kind of say to it, man, like, I know I'm not you. I'm not as brave as you are. Like, I'm just trying to not die, basically, and look out for himself. But he gets, even in the end, he gets the moment. I think he shoots that real asshole second in command guy.
Yeah.
So he kind of comes around slowly, but I enjoyed his arc. So yeah, memorable side characters. Like I said, captures a moment in history really well. Great action, beautiful movie, well shot, good script. Just really effective. I think this is like almost perfect to me.
Yeah, it's the Ip Man movie. I always give it 10 out of 10. It's my favorite one. Again, the third one's my second favorite, but it is the best one. There's a reason it is regarded as one of the best and most important films of the genre of the 21st century. One moment I forgot to mention was after he beats up the 10 men and the Japanese general says, "What's your name?" And he just responds with, "I'm just a Chinese man." And I'm like, I'm not even Chinese, but every time I watch it, I'm like, "You're goddamn right, you're a Chinese man." It's a good moment. I like that line a lot.
Yeah. He's the way he's written, he's able to say a lot with not a lot of words, which I love for any character. We talked about it with John Wick. Characters talk too much. They're too loud. I think they're too a mile a minute these days. I like seeing characters that are just like centered and a little more calm.
Well, calm is not what we get with the protagonist of our next movie. Let's jump into 1981's The Prodigal Son, directed by Sammo Hung.
My tiger kung fu is better than yours.
從來唔知米貴，辦事都要攞威。元彪以為自己打通街，其實係佢老豆荷包暗啞底，正一係敗家仔。
1981's The Prodigal Son introduces us to Leung Chang, a spoiled rich kid who believes himself to be the greatest street fighter around. He's challenged by everyone in town and he wins every fight, but it turns out that his father pays people to lose to him. And once he loses a fight to Peking opera actor Lung Yi Tai, his ego is broken and he is determined to become Yi Tai's student and learn the art of Wing Chun. Directed by Sammo Hung, written by Sammo Hung, Wang Jing, Barry Wong, and starring Yuan Bu, Sammo Hung, Lam Ching Ying, legend, great, no one talks about him enough, Frankie Chan, and stunt coordination pretty much just by all of the actors. Anybody on screen who can fight, which is literally everybody, just put the fights together on the day because that's how it worked back then and it was crazy. I chose this one not only because it is Wing Chun that we are dealing with, but because the Sammo Hung element. He was the action director on Ip Man, and he directed this and plays one of the teachers in The Prodigal Son. So that is sort of the inspiration between pairing you up here with The Prodigal Son compared to Ip Man.
This movie was absolutely wild.
Yeah. How so? Go on, explain.
So I think the first like 10 minutes or so, I was very overwhelmed. I was very much like, I don't know what is happening. Like, what is going on? Who are these characters? Like, I felt like it was going a mile a minute, and then I feel like once it settles in really quickly, and then I really was able to like get into the story, get into the characters, and I really enjoyed it. It's just like this is so zany, like it's so bizarre. There's like really funny stuff they're doing with the music and like sound effects, and like it's just there's some like stuff that's almost like surreal. Like it's a very strange movie. I think very self-aware, very funny, like purposefully funny, obviously.
Yeah. Sammo Hung had his own brand of comedy, and a lot of it was very weird.
Yeah, but I mean, humor is obviously like totally subjective. I think if the humor of this doesn't work for you, you'll probably hate it. I would assume.
Right. Yes.
But that was not the case for me. But I also thought the story itself here was really compelling. We were just kind of talking about Ip Man's lack of ego. Like he's someone who's experienced like ego death, whatever. Like he's just completely himself and just very authentic. And I think like seeing this character who couldn't be further from that, and just the concept of like paying people to lose fights and just having everyone tell the world how great you are. Like how many people like that do we have running the show right now, where it's like I mean,
and like not only just paying people to lose to him, but in order for him to like be able to stick around, his name was Yi Tai, I believe. In order for him to stick around the dude, his dad bought the opera troupe. He's like, why is he here?
Crazy,
his dad bought it.
Bruce Wayne level entitlement.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very funny concept. But what's interesting is you are still able to pull for him, right? Like you feel like he becomes someone who's actually like, okay, no, I get it. Like I've stepped out of the cave and seen reality, and I actually want to learn how to be something on my own and not have people pay my way.
That is honestly a very common trend in a lot of this brand of kung fu movie. And I say this brand, I kind of mean this between 1977 to probably 81, 82. You get a lot of these movies from Sammo Hung, Yuan Wu-ping, Jackie Chan, where it's one reason I don't care for Drunken Master as much as most people. The original 1978 Drunken Master with Jackie Chan is his character in the beginning of that movie is such a freaking asshole. And he develops over the course of the movie and he evolves. So what I appreciate about a lot of this era of kung fu movies is the development is not just physical. The development is not just learning a new skill. The development in a lot of these movies, like you saw here with Yuan Biao's character, is becoming a better person. And he still has the ego, you know. He still at the end is like, I'm a great fighter. I'm better than you. But over the course, he's humbled and he grows somewhat. And that's a very common trend within a lot of these movies is they start out a bit of an asshole and they get better.
Yeah, and he's able to actually like earn that fight at the end, right? Like he's, you know, he does his thing and he wins and he gets to have that. Um, you know, you do still feel like he's a very young, like hot-headed type
Yeah.
person, and he'll probably grow up. But
And I saw an interview with Samo. Actually, I have this movie on Blu-ray right here from Eureka. Yeah, from Eureka, and it's paired up with Warriors 2, another great Sammo Hung movie about Wing Chun. But Sammo Hung did say in an interview, he's like, I fully intended for him to walk away at the end, like having more growth, needing more growth. Like there's still room for him to be better in many ways.
so I was looking at this. Yi Tai and Wabo were both real people.
I did not look into that, but it could be true.
Got you. It looks like
Again, a lot of kung fu movies are made about real people.
yeah, and like you said, I feel like there are so many people to choose from that it's just kind of natural.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain? I was a little bit thrown off. Yi Tai, like, what is happening with the performance? Like, what is the whole situation there?
Think of it like old Shakespeare troops. Think of it like old Shakespeare troops. Women weren't allowed on stage.
Okay.
So the men played the women parts. Now
So
Lam
was he actually
Ching-ying,
doing that voice?
I'm not sure because a lot of these movies back then, a lot of these movies were shot silently. Like if you look at a lot of old 1970s, whether they be a Shaw Brothers movie, if you look at like 36 Chamber of Shaolin or Drunken Master 78 with Jackie Chan, a lot of these movies were shot silently and then dubbed in later, or you know, I guess what do we call that, ADR. So I don't know if that was actually like it's crazy how even today watching a lot of old Jackie Chan movies, you a lot of people probably never heard Jackie Chan's real voice for at least the first decade of his career, which is crazy, right? So that's still this. I'd imagine that's probably the same thing here, where I don't know if that's actually him doing that voice right there in the moment. But one thing that probably I guess could point to that is that Lam Ching-ying, the actor playing Yi Tai, does come from an actual Peking opera background, so he probably had to play a role like that many times in his career. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, it's just. I mean, this is such a like colorful, ridiculous movie. I like one of the things I the first moment I was kind of like, this movie's insane is when Yi Tai is fighting those three guys that are like hitting on him like thinking he's a woman, and then he's like painting the guy's face with like clown makeup. Like it's like over a long period of time. I'm like, this is hilarious. But it's really out there. One thing I wanted to ask, I got a bit confused. The assassination that occurs of like the entire, which is so violent and like out of the entire troop. Was that ordered by Nai Fei? Is Nai Fei the person that he's the man who fights at the end?
The guy who fights at the end, who I don't remember the character's name, but the actor was Frankie Chan.
Right, that's that person. So did he?
I don't think he
or?
orders that. I think that what it is it's an irony aspect of our main character thought he was the shit because his father paid people to lose to him, whereas our villain in Frankie Chan is a good fighter, and anybody who can beat him, his father pays to have them killed. So it's just sort of a different version of what the hero's dealing with.
Got you. Okay, that makes more sense. And then at the end, it makes sense that, you know, obviously he has the people that organized the assassinations killed. So then that's
and I think even when Yi Tai is killed, if I remember, I watched it probably 3-4 days ago now. I think even like Frankie Chan even tries to say like, I didn't mean for that to happen. Didn't mean for that to happen at all.
it's a very funny scene.
Yeah.
Who is the best fighter in this movie? Like, who is the most prolific actual fighter? Do you know, or is there someone that
The most prolific is, I think, probably. So that's see. Here's the thing: why that's so complicated is everyone in this fucking movie is a good fighter. Even the two dudes. So like the main bad guy, his two henchmen are actors named Dick Wei and Fat Chung. And apparently, I think I heard Fat Chung. I watched this movie with the commentary on. So I watched it twice. I watched it once, and then I watched it a second time with commentary. And I think they had said something about how Fat Chung was actually like a pretty legitimate tough man. Dick Wei is fantastic. He's not a lead in a lot of movies. He plays a lot of bad guys, and anytime I see Dick Wei, I'm happy to see him because he's so good. He has a great fight with the main character of this movie, Yuan Biao, in Millionaire's Express, which is another Sammo Hung directed film, and Sammo Hung plays the main character in that. But then, of course, you have Sammo, I don't know if you're familiar with Sammo and Yuan, who's the main character. Sammo and Yuan are, in a way, Jackie Chan's brothers. They all grew up in Peking Opera School together. Sammo Hung was the older brother, essentially. He was the oldest of all of them. So they all grew up. Jackie Chan, Sammo and Yuan, and many other people grew up with that same skill set. In fact, those two were joined by other people, like one of the director of Transporter with Jason Statham, Corey Yuen, as well as like a Yuen Wah, who's the landlord in Kung Fu Hustle. They were all part of a troupe called the Seven Little Fortunes when they were kids. And so they all grew up with the same background, and pretty much everyone in that class went on to become huge Kung Fu stars. So both of those two guys really have the same skill set as a Jackie Chan. Yuan Biao is probably the most talented when it comes to his acrobatics. Like, yes, he's a great fighter, but if you had to like put all of them next to each other and just tell them all to do a flip, it's going to be Yuan doing the flip. But then, of course, you have other people like, and this is just all because you asked me who the best fighter is. The two guys who are our main character's sparring partners at the beginning. I'm not super familiar with one of those guys, but one of them is
right?
Sorry?
They beat his ass.
They beat his ass after when they're just told like, no, fight him for real.
Yeah.
One of those guys, and I'm not familiar with one of them, but one of them is Li Hoi Song, who I'm not sure how much of like an actual like amazing fighter I guess he is, but he's somebody who I don't know if ever got his flowers, because anytime I see him, he's great. Criterion Collection, there's a John Woo film called Last Hurrah for Chivalry. He's one of the main villains in that film. He's my favorite part of 36 Chamber of Shaolin. Essentially, like he's the bad guy in the Sammo Hung film Magnificent Butcher, directed by Yuan Wuping. Anytime Li Hoi Song is there, I know the movie is going to be at the very least good, because Li Hoi Song is just that brilliant.
So Sammo is Wong Hua Bo, who is the guy who has the daughter, correct? And they're all together.
Yes, he's the big dude with the daughter who at the beginning. I'm sure when you saw him, you were like, "What the hell is this man doing?" Because he's doing calligraphy and he's doing flips and he paints his face. Yeah,
It was a funny, like, this almost feels it's so. I feel like every single sequence had like added a new character. It's a very colorful movie. Like it's always kind of keeping you off balance and adding something new. And every single character is this like big personality, which I think like kind of makes it so fun. Like his introduction and his daughter, like, it kind of comes out of nowhere, but like it really adds something to the movie.
So I sent you, what did I send you? I sent you a link did you watch the YouTube link I sent you?
Yes.
So that was in original language with the subtitles. I first watched this movie. So this was only my second time watching this movie. The first time I watched it, I did watch it with the English dub. And when it comes to some old school kung fu movies, there's something you get out of watching it with English dub, because while I loved the movie the second time around, it was funnier with the English dub. And that mostly comes from Sammo Hung, because the dude who they had dubbing him in the English dub is hilarious. The moment that his daughter thinks that like she's being hit on, and she calls her dad, and he like jumps over the fence or out of the window or something. The voice of the English dub guy just goes, "I'm coming!" Just dives through a window. And I laughed so hard watching it. So like, as much as people are like, and it's mostly an anime discussion, I guess, dubs or subs, there is, when it comes to old school kung fu movies, there is something you get out of watching those really bad dubs. There's something you get out of it.
I also think like the subtitles, sometimes it felt really clunky, and like I don't know if it's this like that's where I don't know if it's the script or the translation. It's like I feel like it's not possible to know, but I felt that a little bit more here than with Ip Man.
What were your thoughts? What did you have any ideas going in when I initially said check out this movie from the early 80s from Hong Kong?
I had no idea what to expect. That's why, like I said, the first 10 minutes, I was like, all right, well, what's going on? Like, I wasn't sure. I think this movie just moves so fast, like I said, and it throws a lot at you. But like you settle in with the characters, like I said, and it's a really compelling story. But I had no expectations at all, really. I didn't know what to expect.
So you asked me about who's like sort of, I guess, the more prolific fighter, which I guess the answer to that truly is Sammo Hung, I guess. He is my GOAT. I made a whole like 10-minute long YouTube video just giving my reasons for why he is the GOAT to me. It's not Bruce Lee, it's not Jet Li, Donnie Yen, Jackie Chan, it's Sammo Hung. So I guess the answer to my question for you there was Sammo Hung. But one of the questions I had here for you was, did any of the performers stand out for you?
I would say yeah. I feel like Lam Ching Ying.
Yeah.
Yi Tai. I feel like that performance is just like really compelling, and I liked his character a lot. I thought he was like funny. I liked how like confident he was, but not cocky. And just the concept of kind of like not wanting to be a teacher, but like kind of being coerced into it and getting to a point where he was willing to share. I liked his performance. I thought it was really out there, a lot of physicality to it, not just in the combat, but just in general. That's probably my favorite performance here. I also really enjoyed the right-hand man of Yuan Bao. Is it Bao?
Yeah, I've heard many people pronounce it Bu, Yuan Bu. I've always pronounced it Yuan Biao. So I don't know if I'm wrong or not. I don't know. But then again, also the dudes who did the audio commentary, who are people who have worked in Hong Kong cinema, called him Bu. So I'm sure I'm wrong.
Okay. Gotcha. But his sort of like right-hand man, ride or die guy.
Yeah.
I thought he was very funny. I enjoyed him as well.
The dude being paid to pay people.
Yes.
What other question? Oh, so I love that you bring up Lam Ching Ying, because he has probably the jaw-dropping moment in this movie for me. And it made me think of, we give Tom Cruise all this credit of all these stunts he does. But in the fight scene where the assassination attempt, it's an amazing scene, Yuan Bu is waving around a flaming flag. And Lam Ching Ying, I choose to believe it was Lam Ching Ying and not a stunt double, does a full backflip over not just a flag that's on fire, a flag that is roaring, blazing, massive flames fire. And he does a backflip over it. And I'm like, that was amazing.
Yeah, this feels like a dangerous movie. Like, this feels like a movie where they were just kind of doing shit and just recording it, and like you get to watch like the fights feel very visceral, and there's so many flips, so much like just like there was a lot of moments where I was just like, wow, he just did that.
There's as much as as much as Hong Kong was ahead of the rest of the world in physical action, they were very much behind Hollywood in fire and pyrotechnics. They really, a lot of the times, did not have a plan for that stuff. There's a lot of incidents of explosions going off at the wrong time, of them not being able to control fires. The interview I watched with Sammo Hung, he said that they set the first fire in that scene, and 3 minutes later it was all up in flames. So they really didn't have a plan to do a lot of that stuff.
Do be moving.
There's a terrible story from the movie I've been talking about so much on TikTok, telling people to buy Eastern Condors, where a boat blows up and the guys jump off of it. And the great kung fu, the great stuntman, Chin Kalak, Samo or somebody is pulling him out of the water, and just like skin is coming off of his hands and arms as they're pulling him out of the water. It's like bad. There's a whole movie, honestly, I can't remember what it's called, The Devil Hunters, from the 80s, where it ends with the 3 stars of the movie jumping out of a window or the balcony of an apartment as it blows up, and the explosion was too big, and it goes, and like as they're jumping off, the flames can fully consume them, and you see them fall out of the flames also on fire.
Oh my god.
The movie ends there. The movie ends there with a caption saying, and not just a caption, a newspaper article talking about what happened and how the stunt went wrong, but that everyone's okay. It's nuts. So yeah, no, the flames in this scene, all that just to say, yeah, the fire and all this and all that stuff was very dangerous, and they didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah, it feels dangerous and it feels real, which I think makes it fun, but like, props to these guys for kind of putting it all on the line. It's impressive.
He told the story. Samo said that the dude you liked, the right-hand man, was laying there playing asleep. Meanwhile, everything around him is burning, and he's still playing asleep. And Samo said he could hear him going, "Guys, it's getting hot. Guys, it's getting hot." And they were just like, "Just lay there a little bit longer. Guys, it's getting really hot in here."
That's scary. Yeah, that scene truly was wild. I mean, it's like kind of the biggest set piece, sort of, I guess.
Yeah.
But definitely intense.
So, even though this movie came out in 1981, it very much still, at least at the beginning, has the vibe of a 70s movie. How do you feel, at least in that first half, about sort of that 70s style of choreography and action?
Well, what would you say differentiates the 70s style of choreography and action?
So this leads into another question I have for you. Have you ever heard of the phrase shapes as it pertains to Kung Fu cinema?
No.
So shapes is a style of choreography that is very prevalent in Peking opera stuff, transitioning into filmmaking, because that's what a lot of the early Kung Fu films, especially in the 60s, a lot of the Peking opera style of action transitioned from the stage to the screen. So it's sort of just the tradition. A lot of that carries into early Samo, early Jackie. And so anytime you ever see a lot of the still movements where they're maybe clearly not trying to hit each other, and it's not like a whole bunch of really fluid movement, and they're just going hit, 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 hit. That's sort of what shapes is. And so one of the beautiful things I love about the action in this movie is we see it evolve. Is at the beginning we get shapes, and by the end, and even a little bit in some of the middle stuff, we get it evolving into what kind of became the modern action style of the 80s and 90s that was really ushered in by Samo and Jackie Chan.
So is that something that they were mindfully doing, or like why does that evolution happen in the film itself?
I think it's something they use to show the development of his character as a fighter, because we see it a lot in his fights, especially we see it in the times that Lam Ching Ying is fighting anybody who's not a master, where we see the shape stuff pop, 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 pop. But then the first time he fights Frankie Chan's character, it's far more fast-paced. It's still a little bit of shapes. The pops are getting faster. And then by the end, the final fight scene between Yuen and Frankie, it's very much a modern style of action. You can tell it's progressed, it's faster. They're no longer doing the pop pop pop. It's now just fluid action. We're going.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the action here is beautiful. Do you think the kung fu itself is better in this movie or Ip Man?
I think they're very different. I think that this movie is, and I'm not a master of Wing Chun. I can't identify every single style of it. For that, I recommend the YouTube channel Kung Fu Genius, because he is an actual Wing Chun master. He owns a school and everything, and he's a just giant Bruce Lee historian. He's great. But I don't know if this movie is wholly reliant on truly sticking to Wing Chun, whereas Donnie Yen playing Ip Man, the most famous Wing Chun master of all time, like, yeah, he is just full on, we're doing Wing Chun. Like, he's definitely, you can see it in this movie, especially the training stuff. But in that final fight scene, you know, they just kind of start throwing some big kicks and pushing people off of stairs and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Which looks very painful, I would say.
So one fun thing with that final fight is Yuen Bu had to fight himself, because Frankie Chan couldn't do any of those big kicks. So anytime you see Frankie Chan throwing a really big kick or anything like that, Yuen Bu is doubling him. So he's doubling Frankie Chan kicking himself.
That's a fun fact. Do you
I like it.
How do you rate that last fight? Like, do you enjoy it? Do you think it I mean, I think you said it kind of like devolves a little bit. Like, what's your take on it?
It is one of my favorite Yuen Bu fight scenes, and I love all his stuff, from Eastern Condors to Righting Wrongs and many other things. I think it's one of the greatest things Sammo Hung or anybody in that team ever put together. And that's crazy because it's so early in the 80s, when it's a decade that they dominated. Like, they were on top of the world in that decade, and I think that they started off doing some of their best work in 1981. So it's one of my favorite fight scenes Yuen Bu has ever done, or Sammo Hung has ever helped put together. It's one of my favorites.
Got you. Maybe one other question is, how is comedy like super prevalent in this era, or like is comedy like typical in movies like this, or is it like, is this on the more comedic end, or like what's kind of the normal tone?
This is, I think Samo had maybe figured out his thing by this point, at least his comedic thing, because he really starts making a lot of his own stuff by at least the late 70s, whereas Jackie Chan made his directorial debut in 79. And Jackie, what really kind of starts it off, because everything's serious. Whether it doesn't matter if it's not everything. There's a handful of whatever comedies that aren't great. Dirty Ho is a good one. Dirty Ho is a very good comedy. Whether it's a Shaw Brothers film, it's especially Chang Che, who's a Shaw Brothers director. A lot of his stuff is referred to as like heroic bloodshed sometimes. It's very serious macho men fighting and dying by the sword, or, you know, whatever. Somebody who's been wronged and must correct it. So a lot of the stuff through the 70s is pretty serious, and I think it's kind of been regarded as what established the Kung Fu comedy is Yuen Wu-ping teamed up with Jackie Chan, and first they did Snake and the Eagle's Shadow, and then they'd of course did Drunken Master. And that was the moment of, oh, we can make Kung Fu movies goofy. And from there, Jackie, Samo, a handful of other people just took that and ran. So, yes, a lot of the movies, especially in this era from Jackie and Samo, are quite goofy. There's some movies they make that are serious. I have mentioned to you one time a movie with Jackie and Samo together called Heart of the Dragon. That movie's quite serious. There's some movies that get pretty dark, But for the most part, this era, especially from this team, Jackie, Samo, any of those guys, they get pretty goddamn goofy.
Do you have a preference between dark and goofy?
It just all comes down to presentation, I guess. I think these days I prefer, like, when it comes to modern martial arts or kung fu, I prefer dark, mostly just because I don't find a lot of them very funny. But when it comes to the old school stuff, I've learned to embrace the goofy, even the stuff that I don't know if I find that funny or I just find odd. I just sort of embrace it as the culture, and I appreciate it for that. Like, it's enough that I sometimes do a series on my YouTube channel called Kung Fu Essential, where I pick one star and I run through their entire career, and I pick 5 movies from their career that I think are essential to discover them. And one thing I try to make a point of is I have to pick a movie that is going to be just freaking weird, because you can't get into Kung Fu cinema and avoid weird.
Understood. What's like the pinnacle of weird, would you say?
Something I haven't watched yet, probably. Jackie doesn't get super weird. Jackie has his own brand of comedy. If you've seen one Jackie Chan movie with the comedy, you've seen another. At least when it comes to the comedy, maybe not the action, but the comedy you have seen. It's gonna be probably something Samo, maybe. Samo, I mean, if you watch Encounters of the Spooky Kind, which is a great melding of horror and kung fu comedy, that movie gets really, really, really weird. Like Sammo Hung having to paint. I think Lam Ching Ying plays in that movie as well, but he has like a shaman paint a bunch of like symbols all over his body completely naked, so that he can like be taken over and fight the bad guy, because he can't do it without, being possessed, kind of thing. Stuff like that gets weird. Seventh Curse, which is another horror movie, just gets totally bizarre. Oh my god, freaking what did I watch? The Boxer's Omen. Jesus Christ, that was I don't want to watch that again. That's one that, the movies, I guess it tends to be a lot of the horror stuff. A lot of the stuff that tries to blend your kung fu with your horror. I guess because what they find as horror is not exactly what we find as horror.
Okay.
And then also they would maybe try to use some filmmaking techniques that weren't perfect yet, like some bad stop motion animation or some bad whatever CGI. That a lot of that stuff gets really weird.
Understood.
Yeah. Let me run through my other questions I had for you here, other moments I want to talk about with this movie. Were you surprised at all by Samo's athleticism for a bigger man?
I wouldn't say I was surprised. I don't think size necessarily dictates athleticism.
No.
So no.
No. Jackie Chan used to describe him as he looks like an elephant, but he moves like a mouse.
He's a nimble guy, for sure.
He's great. He's one of my favorites. I mean, he is the goat. He's the goat for me. Let me see what I have here. No, I pretty much think I covered all my notes here. Do you have any final takeaways from The Prodigal Son?
I would just say thank you for pointing me in a direction. This is one of those things that like I just would have never found. So it's fun to kind of step into a world that just feels fresh and different. I think I think we all get kind of tired of watching the same stuff. So it was definitely enjoyable. I think I might watch this Encounters of the Spooky Kind. This looks funny.
Do it, dude. Watch Encounters of the Spooky Kind. It's good. The second one, I think the action in the second one's better, but yeah, watch Encounters of I'm not a horror person. My collection behind me is all kung fu and martial arts. I have a smaller shelf beside me. I have my collection downstairs in the living room, and if I were to go downstairs and count my horror movies in my regular movie collection, I'd probably count 3 to 4 out of a couple hundred movies. If I were to count the horror collection in the kung fu movies, it's going to be a whole lot more, because I don't mind some kung fu blended with horror. Check out Mr. Vampire. It's very, very good. But let's
Okay,
go
cool.
ahead. So what?
No, I think that's great. Is there like a best kung fu horror movie or like something that's considered?
The best two are going to be Encounters of the Spooky Kind and Mr. Vampire. The seventh curse gets crazier. The seventh curse. There's a section of Hong Kong cinema, especially in the 80s, that I have not dove into very much. I have some friends in the community that have very much and love that stuff. But there's a section of Hong Kong cinema in this time called Cat 3 or Category 3. And that essentially just means it's going to be a lot more violent and there's going to be a lot more nudity.
Gotcha.
And so I have a kung fu horror movie called The Seventh Curse that is like Category 3 light. Like there's a little bit of nudity and it's pretty freaking violent. That one's quite good, but the top kung fu horror movies I think most people would agree are Encounters of the Spooky Kind and Mr. Vampire.
Gotcha. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, boy. Let's get into our own final fight and wrap up this video. What takeaways do you have from this little dive into Kung Fu cinema?
Really just it's so simple, but I just want to watch more. I think I definitely
Sweet.
want to watch like I said, at least those two Ip Man movies. And then kind of go from there, especially with Donnie Yen. But I think just kind of figuring out what the essentials are and then diving in. But I was really entertained, and like I said, I feel like I've kind of been. I didn't actually say this, but this month I feel like I've been in a little bit of like a movie rut, like where
Yeah.
I'm just like I'll watch. I feel like so much stuff over the course of like a few weeks, and I did that in June, and then I feel like in July I really slowed down. I've also been like traveling and stuff, but getting to watch these two was a lot of fun and kind of like got me going again. So I appreciate it.
Sweet. I appreciate you watching them. Even though Prodigal Son is not as old school as it gets, how do you feel between having experienced old school kung fu to modern kung fu? Like, do you have like any certain ideas or preferences there?
I would say I preferred It Man, but I think like it's not about so much the kung fu itself as just like the tone and the story. I think like It Man very much aligns with just like it's kind of right up my alley with what it's doing.
Yeah.
I do enjoy heavier stuff, but like Prodigal Son really grew on me as it went. Like literally as it kind of minute by minute, I got more invested in it and really
Yeah.
enjoyed it. And like I said, there's a good serious story in there too. So I don't want to like I'm not saying it's like just goofy.
Yeah.
But I think I preferred It Man between the two.
If I wanted to recommend you this one, just if you're ever just looking for just a fun movie, like just a movie for pure entertainment value, check out Project A. It's a Three Dragons film. The Three Dragons refers to Jackie, Samo, and Yuen partnering up together. They made about 7 movies together. I think that's the second or third one. It's a pirate movie. It's 2 of them are like naval officers, and then one of them's just like a petty criminal, and they all have to team up and take down some pirates. And it's a really fun movie.
And so this is a Project A is a series.
So the first one is Jackie, Samo, and Yuen, and then the first one is all 3 of them together. The second movie is just a Jackie Chan movie. I don't love it. I think maybe the stunts are better in the second one. I think from what I heard, or what I read somewhere, was Jackie didn't even want to make the second one, but apparently like whoever the leader of Japan was at the time just really loved the first one and paid Jackie Chan to make the second one or something. I read that somewhere. I don't know if it's true, but that's what I read. Third question, and I think you've already answered it. How likely are you to dive a little bit further into the genre?
I would say very.
Sweet.
10 out of 10. Yeah.
That's all I need to hear. Last question for you. Did you have fun?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And I like that. I wasn't sure like what your pick was going to be, but I like that it felt like a real contrast, like while having the Wing Chun obviously to tie it together, but it felt like I got a little taste of two different things, so that was fun.
Hell yeah. I appreciate that answer. Well, Dan, thank you so much for joining me and indulging in my unhealthy obsession with the Kung Fu genre. I have said many times that I kind of have chosen to make it my goal is just to spread the wealth and joy of a genre that I feel is under-recognized by not even just like mainstream, moviegoers, but like, horror has its extremely passionate, massive fan base and classic cinema and all this stuff. And I feel like a section of the movie world that goes unnoticed and unrecognized is Kung Fu cinema. So I'm very happy that you enjoyed yourself.
Yeah, I'm sure many other people will enjoy themselves too. I'm looking forward to this series.
Hell yes. Well, thank you so much for watching the first episode of I Welcome You to Kung Fu. I plan on making this a monthly series. Please track down my guest Dan on his socials and not in real life. If you don't follow him on TikTok at Real Takes, he also has a new page called The Real State, as well as checking out his movie-loving podcast that is Goodwill Podcasting. I will provide all links to those things in the description down below. And of course, if you followed Dan here and this is your first time joining me on this channel, well, I welcome you to Kung Fu.